Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking to Stacey Webb. And if you have not already, hit that like and subscribe button. Do it right now.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
I'm excited that you're here. So, where are you visiting us from?
I'm visiting from Sydney, Australia.
What time is it for you?
It is 11:45 p.m. here.
That is so past my bedtime.
and it's we're approaching winter, so the cold chill has arrived here.
Yeah. So you're a complete opposite of us, obviously, because you're on the other side of the world. But I love that you stayed up so late with us, and we get to meet you.
Yes, it's perfect.
I don't know if I could stay up that late.
Well, it's all my children are asleep, so I know that I can chat away and know that they're happily sleeping away with beautiful dreams.
Well, that's good. Oh my goodness. Okay, so speaking of dreams, totally off topic, but speaking of dreams, I had the weirdest dream last night. I dreamed, and I don't know why, but I dreamed that there was a moose in my house. And yes, I live in Canada, but it's not like I see a moose on a regular basis. Like I don't live up north. If I see a moose, it's at the zoo. But anyway, so there was a moose in my house, and my cat, my tabby cat, was protecting me from this moose that was trying to get into my bedroom. And the moose was scared of the cat. And then the cat the door wouldn't shut. And so then I was trying to put up a baby gate because a baby gate would stop a moose. And I don't know. And then I woke up and the dream was over. But I don't know why that happened. It was just so bizarre. So I had to share the bizarreness with everybody. So now that you know that I'm a big fat weirdo, tell me about who Stacey is.
Well, I'm first off, and it's taken me many years to recognize and love the fact that I am an imperfectly perfect human being. That breaking away from the perfectionist that I believed I was and who I should be, that I am a human being that is just living life. So, so I have that there. I am a mum of four. Four children. Wow. That includes twins, and I am an intuitive trauma release mentor where I help and support people with releasing fear and trauma from their body with a range of somatic embodiment to help within the body. So I do all of that.
Cool. All right. 4 kids. Oh, one is more than enough. Two is good. It's actually funny. You've got twins. Both of my in-laws, like my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, they're both twins.
Oh wow. Yeah.
How unusual is that for like both of them to be twins?
Yeah, I never thought I would have twins. It was never really a thought or an idea that I would have even had. But here we were, my husband and I went, let's try for number 3. And we were blessed with a bonus baby and we have twins. So it was, nice. I believe that I am a big believer that our children also pick us as parents. And my twins are fraternal twins. They're boy-girl twins. And my girl twin was the second twin. She was twin B. And I said it because when I was pregnant, I didn't know the gender of my twins. I didn't know the gender of any of my babies until I birthed them. I just knew that my twins were fraternal.
Yep.
And my second twin was a girl, and I believe that she just at the last minute picked me and thought that would be great. So I'm very, very lucky that she did. And we've now got all 4.
That is very sweet. All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes here. What mental health are we going to talk about today?
Oh, well, I have experienced depression and PTSD I've been a police officer for 16 years here in Australia, most of those being a detective. And I've experienced depression before I joined the police force and after I joined the police force. So it's something that we're trying to break the stigma from in regards to people in emergency services, in terms of the depression, burnout, exhaustion that they may experience, and also the trauma that they experience whilst they're serving the public at the same time. So yeah.
I love how you say that. So yesterday I was interviewed on somebody's show and we were talking about how she was in the military before and there was this stigma around mental health, obviously. And she was saying, do I tell them? Do I not tell them? Will I lose my job? Will I not? And she was in the States, so obviously different, but it's still a fact, I think, across the board that when it comes to mental health and emergency services, do you tell them? Do you not tell them? What do you do? Are you going to be seen as not capable of doing your job? So let's talk about that because that's interesting. I haven't really touched on that topic too much on the show. So because you said that you were experiencing it before you became a police officer.
Yes, I personally had childhood trauma. My dad died when I was 12 and our whole life changed when he died, going from two parents to a single parent family, and he died suddenly, where that itself was very traumatic. And going through life, and I was 12, so I was then hitting a certain point in my own life, in my own puberty and in growth, where my whole life had shattered, and learning how to adapt to one parent. And it was at a time when death of parents wasn't really spoken about. Growing up in high school for me, no one really had parents that had died at that point in time. They may have divorced and they may have had separated, but there was never particularly around about that time that I personally know of that a parent had died. Mm-hmm. And so with that, it brought on uncomfortable situations. People didn't want to talk about it because they didn't know how to talk about it. And it made them uncomfortable if I then spoke about it. So I felt that I shouldn't speak about it and I had to hide that. And looking back, I can see times of when my mum was sad and depressed and trying to, figure out life as a single family, and we didn't really have family help. So I took on a lot of responsibility as well. I was the oldest, took on responsibility of helping my brothers and sisters, and that brought itself along this, I guess, a lot of conditioning I mentioned in terms of my perfectionism and at times my people pleasing, where I felt that I had to do everything. I had to be the backbone. I had to be the rescuer and the carer and the parent and everything else that came with it. It did go through in terms of me wanting to support and help more people, which then brought me into joining the police force. But that itself, I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who would listen to me. I didn't think anyone would listen to me. And I thought I was destined to feel sad and uncomfortable feelings. And I was ashamed of them, where I hid that away and thought that I needed to push it away or mask it, rather than actually, be able to be okay that I'm sad, be okay that I'm upset. Even, to be okay to even talk about my dad. I felt like I shouldn't talk about him at all because, again, it felt everyone else was uncomfortable with having to talk about it. And so that brought along very confusing things for me growing up, because here I am trying to to decipher and learn life as this young teenager. And I felt like I had a lot of roadblocks along the way as to, how I should feel.
Yeah.
And so that itself brought, that little bit of, depression, sadness, grief, massively grief, and not sure how to manage that grief or even how to grieve. For many years, I pushed that grief aside. And it wasn't until I was 18, 19 years old that I actually faced that grief and worked through that grief.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a very, very big step in my life. And yeah, and that again changed my life again once I did that. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. It's hard enough being a teenager, let alone losing a parent, not knowing how to grieve, not knowing what to say. That would be very difficult. Very difficult.
yes.
What?
I was going to say, but with that, I then felt like it helped me when I then did join the police force, because at times you are with other people in grief, that I felt that I was able to be a really good
Yeah.
space holder for them, whilst having to investigate what I needed to investigate my job, but also being able to create and hold space for them during their most vulnerability and grief at that time as well.
Yeah. So at least you were able to turn it to something positive and helpful.
Yes.
Yes. What made you want to join the police force?
Oh, I wanted to join the police force because for me, it was this deep passion within of wanting to help people, and wanting to help people in a different way, because I knew it wasn't always going to be all roses and unicorns and rainbows and everything like that.
Oh, come on.
And that created a lot of argument at home, because my mum didn't want me to be a police officer. So we used to have many arguments about what I wanted to do in life as I was getting older. But I felt that I could make a difference in people's lives. You know, when people call police officers, they are in fear of either something that's happened in the past or something in the future. And I felt like I could be that one person that could help potentially shape a person's life, help someone in any way, because most people that make contact with police officers, they will remember that police officer the rest of their life. You know, for my mum, when it came to my dad, she remembers how those police officers were with her, and she will remember that for the rest of her life. And so I knew that was actually that's the really important responsibility, a really deep responsibility for emergency service workers to have. And again, with them in so much fear, they're going to have at times a dysregulated nervous system, that we as police officers could potentially be able to, we can't fix what's happening, what may have happened or anything like that in terms of how they are feeling, but we may be able to help them in that moment, and we will potentially shape and change the rest of their lives. And so that's why I wanted to join. So when I finished high school, I was actually too young. Yeah. So when I finished high school, I was actually too young. Here in Australia, when you graduate from the police academy, you needed to be 19 years old for carrying a firearm whilst you're working. And when I finished high school, I was 17. So I had to do something else first before I was even old enough to join, which to my mother's my mother was happy with that, in hopes that I would eventually choose something else and change my mind about joining the police force and continue with that. But that wasn't the case. And
that's funny.
My intuition was always calling me to join the police force, and so I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, mums are funny that way. When I started doing kickboxing, my mom was like, "No, don't do it. You might get hurt. You might this, that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm an adult now, so I'm gonna do it." And even now, she still will say stuff sometimes, and I'm like she's never actually watched me fight ever. Because, and neither has my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law flat out says, "I will never watch you fight. I will never watch a recording of it." She goes, "It's too scary." And I'm like, especially as a recording, it's like, I'm okay. I'm right here.
Yeah, I could appreciate her concerns.
Yeah.
But when I did say, "Hey, Mum, it's time, I'm now joining the police force," she was very supportive and was like, good. If this is what you want to do, if this is what's going to make you happy, then do it. But I remember that conversation. I was all prepared for all these defenses to help my argument, like this is what I'm doing. And I didn't need to use any of it.
Well, she had some time to like sit with it and like come to terms with it, right?
Yeah, definitely right. And but instead, as you join the police force, and especially because I joined it, I was so young, you know, for pretty much all of my adulthood, I've been a police officer. And you know that you're going to be confronted with trauma, but you're not really still at the same time prepared. And we're not really then taught how we're able to help manage that, and how we're helped to help with our bodies, with our nervous systems, to be able to release what we don't need within our bodies. With that, we're not really taught that. And that for me became the very a learned thing that I wanted to know more deep about, because again, I also thought it was going to help my victims and my witnesses, and even my offenders who I would be dealing with at work. And I originally was wanting to learn to help them, but it always is going to help ourselves as well. And I realized how much that was actually my own service, my own medicine, that it was going to help my own mental health, and really brought awareness as to, you know what, they were actually, you know, that job I did the other week, you know what, that's still affecting me a little bit, and I need to work on that, and not avoid it, and not push it aside and hope that it will just go away by itself, and just acknowledge the fact that, hey, I'm still a bit upset by that.
Yep.
You know,
That's such a good point, because in emergency services, and I've had other police officers, dispatchers, things like that on the show, and it sits with them. And if you guys can't deal with it effectively and positively, it can really do a number on you. Just like any kind of trauma, you are dealing with it, even if it wasn't, you know, directly you that was hurt. You are having to deal with the, like you said, the victims, the offenders, the witnesses, and that's heavy. That's very heavy and delicate.
Yeah, you know, that we, being emergency service workers, you then feel that you must be able to handle it all, because you are the one that people call to for help. So you when you sort of coming down to that core belief that you must think within yourself, is that you must be able to handle it all. And if you can't, then you're not good at your job, which is not the case. But this is the deep limiting belief that some of us have, is that we have to be able to do it all, because we are the ones that people call upon for help. And so who do we call for help? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We believe that it stops with us. And the thing that we sort of sometimes tend to forget is that we always need our own scaffold and our own support system, and to be able to have those outlets. Now, everyone's going to have their own different type of outlets, their own type of therapy that may help them, their own type of fitness that they like, or anything like that. It's obviously all trial and error until you find something that works for you. But to know that you need to have that, and that you're not invincible, which sometimes we like to think that we are, that we're not invincible, and that it's okay if something is affecting us, that may have, you know, connected us very much deeply on another level, because, you know, we may even have some fear or guilt surrounding something that has happened, or it's actually triggered or activated something within our own personal life, or within our own fears that we have in life, or something even greater, deeper than that. And to sort of, again, break away from that stigma that we must be able to do it all ourselves. We're creating this perfectionist within ourselves, and this unmet expectation. We're never going to meet it, and we'll just constantly keep thinking that we become a failure because of it. And that's where the shame's going to come in, because we're then going to be afraid to want to tell anyone about it. We're going to afraid to seek help about it. You know, for certain people, they're like, I'm not going to tell my family about it, because, you know, they don't understand the type of jobs that we deal with, so they don't want to re-traumatize someone else. So again, we're still wanting to take care of people by not wanting to re-traumatize something else with what's happening in our own mind, and to go, okay, well, if they're not the people that we're able to seek help and support with, who can we? Because there are people out there that can be the support person for you as an emergency service worker to hear the things that you want to say out, and it's not going to re-traumatize them, that they're going to be able to create and hold that space for you as you and help you work through and release whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
But we just think that no one can do that for us.
Your video just went out.
I know, I'm sorry. Sometimes my camera does weird things, but I'm still here.
All right, that's all that matters.
It's going crazy. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, it's going to keep doing that.
It says it's late.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important as emergency workers, recognizing unrealistic expectations that are set upon you and have been set upon you, not just for yourself and from yourself, but by society as a whole. Because we look at emergency workers as these heroes, as these people, they're on a pedestal, they can do it all. And I mean, yes, they are heroes. However, they can't do it all, not without help. It's all about having support around you, and have, just like as an emergency worker, you're helping those that you are there to support. You also need an outlet and a way to support yourself.
Exactly right. At the end of the day, we are also human beings and living in this world amongst everyone else. And, you know, the problem is when we put ourselves on that pedestal as well.
Yeah.
And so we fear the fall. We fear the fall of how that's going to happen. And when we're in fear of that unknown, we just add fuel to that fire of fear, and it just grows bigger and bigger, and we feel that the cup gets full. And us as, you know, emergency services, we're there to help other people, but you also can't help from an empty cup. And sometimes we forget that because, again, we either feel that no one will understand and be able to help us, or we feel that we should be invincible and we should be able to do it all. So, and I apologize for my camera. It's just going to keep doing that now because we're on call.
It has a mind of its own. It's
oh my goodness.
So when you joined the police force, did you tell them that you were dealing with depression or PTSD or anything?
So at that time, I had worked through my depression on my dad's, on the grief of my dad, but I did have a meeting with a psychologist at that time to go through the talking of that, because I did disclose that I had seen a psychologist in the past, and that it was in regards to death and grief, and I was very open with that. So I did have some type of, I guess it was like a meeting where they did a report and all of that type of stuff for the police force. So I did do that, and I did disclose all of that, and that all seemed to be fine, because again, we're all human and we're all going to be going through something. And I was actually actively working on that. And I do believe that I then did get out of that depression in regards to my dad's death. And you know, it's something that, you know, obviously do get activated with that in certain times if it's his birthday anniversary of his death. But it was not my decisions that I made in life was not in fear or as a result of everything that came from my grief and depression that come from that. So I did be able to release that and was able to show the police force that where I did go in. So
okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And what are your favorite coping strategies to deal with when you need to deal with whatever is happening?
Well, first off, the breath is so underrated into being used, and it's such an amazing nervous system regulation skill. So I do breath work, I do breathing. I also love to do tapping, EFT tapping, which otherwise known as emotional freedoms techniques. It's something that you can do on yourself. And I'm actually certified in EFT tapping, but I started doing tapping for myself. And as I was with my victims, I mainly, when I was a police officer, did sexual assault investigations. So I'd be with my victim as I, you know, would take a statement. And, you know, the court process here is somewhat slow. I'm not too sure what it's like there in America, but sometimes we may not go to trial for quite many months, sometimes a year, if not more, before you get to trial after first even taking a statement from your victim. So, during that time, you get to know your victims, and, again, they would obviously be very scared and nervous about having to say their story, and stuff like that. And, I would do a bit of tapping with them as well. And it just, I love it so much. I do it with my children. So I include tapping. That's one of the big ones there. I love in movement, just intuitive movement, just moving and seeing how your body feels with it. It can be with music, it could be without music. It doesn't really matter, but just allowing that beautiful space of movement, and to know that, at times it doesn't have to be this beautiful soft movement, and that it can be, if you're angry, just to let it out and let this primal rage out and everything else come through that, and to know that, again, that's not bad. Sometimes, again, we see anger as bad, and something that we need to hide, but we can actually release that anger in such a healthy way. And for me, doing that in terms of type of movement, for me, I quite like, so I'll also do that. It was 5, was it? Was that 5 you said that we need?
Oh, I just said your favorite.
Favorite. Oh, there you go. Well, they're my top 3. A lot of it for me all is into coming back to my body and how my body feels, not so much my mind, because my mind will create the story attached to it. So if I go into how my body feels, that's where I can go, okay, how do I feel if I'm feeling sad? Where am I feeling sad in my body? Okay, then I might do some breathing to that part of my body, or I might, again, move to that part of my body as to how that body is to feeling, or I might then again do EFT tapping as to how that would feel. So they're always my 3 go-tos. And they interchange obviously with however I feel at that time. Also, I guess wherever I am, breath work is a lot more easier to do when you're out everywhere. I do tapping in public, and there are ways that you can do it where people don't even know, and there are times when I know I've got, if it's time within the house by my either by myself, or if the kids are home and I'm just moving away, that that's also, obviously we'll do that more at home than I am out in the public, but that's also something that I do myself as well.
That's awesome. And what I love about this show is I have had over 100 episodes, and you are the first person to talk about tapping. So,
oh wow, there you go.
There's always something different to talk about and learn. I love it.
It's absolutely amazing. Again, as I said, it's something you do by yourself, where you're just using the ends of your fingertips to tap on the meridian points. So if you think of acupuncture, where they use little needles to put the little needles in terms of the meridian points, instead of little needles, you use the end of your fingertips. So you'll primarily do tapping on your face, on your upper body, or on your hands. And so that's a beautiful way to tap into our body and to send the signals back to our amygdala, which is, our amygdala is one of the places within our brain that sort of alarms us when there's danger, but we can get stuck in that trauma response where the amygdala thinks that we're always in danger, and to let it know that we're not, we're actually here in a safer place, and to allow that to not have to activate when it doesn't need to. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Very nice. All right, so we're coming to the end of the show. So what have you written?
So I have written a book called The Intuitive Detective. It is a memoir of my life, where I share parts of my childhood, my time within the police force while I was in uniform and as a detective, and also my current day experiences as a human, as a woman, as a mum, in terms of how listening to my intuition, and at times not listening to my intuition, as to how that's shaped my life. It shows how, in terms of when I have faced my fears, listening to my intuition to be able to face my fears, and how I've been able to release those fears and traumas within my body to not only continue forward in my life, but also enable me to have a bit more of awareness as to what's around me, and to go on those deeper layers within my own healing journey. It's like
Yeah.
like an onion, and peeling it all away and having those beautiful awarenesses of that. And there's many times while I've been a police officer where I have experienced something or have been there for someone else and have that deeper awareness as to my own healing journey, the death of my father, I'm a redhead, being a redhead, the only redhead at school, and feeling that I was all different and that something may be wrong with, something must be wrong with me, and just all those feelings that you have as when you're growing up, and to know that you're not alone, that there is light, and those times when you are alone and you feel so isolated and you feel that no one's going to understand you, and to know that there is people out there that's going to understand you. You are not alone, and there is light, and it's just that beautiful uncovering of layers within that. And yeah, so it's all shaped up in stories of my life and how that is intertwined with intuition.
Awesome. And where do people get it?
So you can get it on Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can also get it on Walmart online, Barnes and Noble. For us Aussies here, you can get it on Dimmicks online as well, and also including my website, which is at www.staceywebb.com.au.
Excellent. And where do people follow you?
So you can follow me on primarily on Instagram, where my profile is _Stacey Webb. I'm also on Facebook under Stacey Webb as well. And or again, you can follow me through my website and get my weekly newsletters on my website for staceywebb.com.au. I do host one-on-one sessions as well as group circles for nervous system healing and breathwork.
Wonderful. And we're going to stick those links down in the description below so everybody can very easily find you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time, staying up late with us, and coming on the show.
That's okay. Thank you so much for having me and putting up with my camera, just doing random things today.
It's just the ghost. It's fine.
Which is now working.
So Stacey is off to bed now. Thank you so much for staying up late. I don't know if I could have done that. I like to go to bed by like 10. But thank you so much. And be sure to check out her links down in the description below. If you would like to support the channel, we of course have our Patreon, where you get some behind the scenes footage, some first drafts of what I'm writing, or check out our merch store. 10% of the proceeds goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.